This video is really a slideshow, and it's going to show highlights of the Canadian contingent's trip to the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo back in 2015. There were other Canadians that did find their way to the battle and fell in with other groups and units, but this is more the story of the group that traveled together. There were 160 of us that traveled together, and on June 16th, we arrived in Amsterdam. So everyone met in Amsterdam, the various charters coming into the city. Well, we had a little bit of time in Amsterdam that afternoon and evening. So here's a few highlights from, I guess, as people are trying to clear their heads, adjust to the new time zone, get rid of the jet lag, and then prepare the next day to travel on to Brussels. But en route, we stopped in Antwerp and had a look around. Obviously, we had the feeling we were closing in on Bonaparte and the 200th anniversary celebrations. Boy, Belgium is well noted for its beer and really showcased it in this little shop in Antwerp. We found ourselves into Brussels late afternoon, had a chance to explore the city a little bit more, wrap up an evening preparing to move on to the battlefield the next day. So June 18th, the actual day of the Battle of Waterloo, we arrived on site, and this was an opportunity to familiarize ourselves with the encampments, meet our brigade, and then also for everyone, it was a day of rehearsals and shaking off the dust, getting groups not used to working together to collaborate and sync up their drill and prepare for the next 2 days. Here's our drum corps under Ross Flowers doing a practice. I like to think they're well contained, roped in. That's probably the best thing you can do with a drum corps. Don't want them running loose all over the place. Here's the gentleman portraying the Duke of Wellington riding around, introducing himself to the various troops and corps on the field, and some scenes around camp. We were hoteling it, so we had no camp. Our brigade hosted us and certainly made us feel welcome, but we took advantage of the luxurious grass to kind of camp out in that general area. Here's a view of the encampments seen around the area of the Hougoumont farm. And here we are just waiting for things to kick off. So no camp to sit around. We'll find a spot anywhere. And here we are out, having marched into the practice area and then very much working on forming square. That was going to be a key thing to be able to do and would come into play the next couple of days. And then once again, in the practice area, hey, it seems like we're forever waiting for the officers to figure out what's going on. And while that's happening, what are the troops to do other than to rest? So moving on to the next day, the 19th of June is going to be the first day of the big battle demonstrations. So here you see some of the troops on the move. And then very quickly, our column got bogged down. And it's amazing, I was managing a company and people were asking me like I had some magical powers of knowledge, what was going on, why were we stopped? Well, apparently, one of the gun crews broke this little bridge coming out of the other side of La Haye Sainte, and we had to wait until the bridge was repaired, and then also by the host organizing committee declared safe for us to cross once again. But while we were parked in this area, just outside of La Haye Sainte, well, we waited, but then more waiting. But then here's a unique opportunity. Our column was actually passing through the farm complex, so not a lot of people get a chance to see what it looks like inside La Haye Sainte. And so here are a few shots illustrating the interior of the farm complex, which is now a private farm. And they had a number of their own dignitaries and guests there, had a little bit of a reception planned in the farmyard and weren't probably counting on so many people crashing their little party. Here we are at long last, after years of planning. For me, ever since I joined the hobby more than 20 years ago, I've been hearing about past expeditions to Waterloo to take part in the big anniversary reenactments. And at long last, 2015, we're on the battlefield waiting for the event to kick off. So it was quite the event. It was over 5,000 reenactors each night. You can see the stands in the background. We performed in front of 50,000 spectators or more. So for us, using more North American term, very much like our Super Bowl. So it was probably by far the largest event I've ever participated in. It was the colors of the Royal Scots. They traveled with us. They had been kind of campaign worn after years of use. This was going to be the last time they flew at a reenactment and would be retired after this event. On the battlefield, there I am with the 41st Regiment of Foot. And there it gives a sense for some of the different brigades deploying on the battlefield. And you can see how extensive the grandstands are with all the public getting ready to watch the event kick off. So here we are, things are starting off. We were positioned on a rise somewhat between the replica La Haye Sainte and Hougoumont structures on the battlefield. We have light infantry deployed in front of us, so they would go in an extended order, fighting in pairs, and they'd have their private little battle with the voltigeurs from the French side, but also, their goal is to disrupt the French attack and break it up before it hits the main line. Here gets a little bit frustrating. We're in square, and I'm not sure I ever felt so vulnerable, as there was some French infantry around us firing on us as we were forced to be in square because, well, there was cavalry in the area. And this is probably one of my most vivid memories of the 2015 event was the rush, seeing the cavalry dancing around, their swords making contact with their bayonets and the sergeant's pike. At the end of the evening, my sergeant showed me the head of his pike, and it was serrated almost like a saw blade from being hit by swords so many times. So there was real contact on the bayonets and the pikes. And then it was just something else watching the horses and see their eyes widen and their reluctance to close any closer. They were looking at the bayonets and wanted no part of it. So, a really true living depiction of the difficulty cavalry had, trying to break up a square. And there's some more French infantry in our immediate area. And then you can see some of the action around the Hougoumont replica structure to our right. And then this is getting close to the end of the evening as the things are winding down and dark is starting to fall. So then we move on to the next day, day 2, which fell on June 20th. Things are rather trampled out in the fields from all the activity the night before. There's our brigade, kind of stood down waiting for the activity to pick up. We had quite a bit of idle time on the battlefield. The second day, we were actually part of the forces inside Hougoumont. The walls and defenses put around it really got beaten up badly the night before. And we did our best trying to improvise and rebuild some semblance of a defense. Here's more of our contingent inside. And there's a look between the two buildings over to the far side where the Coldstream Guards were holding down the fort. This is a combined group, the de Murons and de Wattevilles, largely from Thunder Bay and Winnipeg. And then you notice a little inscription scratched into the wall. Tragically, one of their members had passed away upon arrival at the battlefield on that first day on June 18th. And so here is their little tribute to their fallen colleague, as they wanted him to be part of their Waterloo experience. Once again, light infantry out in advance of our positions. This is the Royal Scot Lights, largely out of London, Ontario. Here's a gun crew near our vicinity. The commander of the lights telling his colleague, keep your eyes open. And there we can see some of the French attacks forming, and you appreciate all the gun smoke on the battlefield and how much that obscures our sight lines and views. Once again, the Royal Scot Lights in front of our position. And there you see the French attack on the structure that represented La Haye Sainte. And here we are inside the Hougoumont structure. The walls were gone. There was no holding the French out other than the walls formed by the bodies of our men, the defenders inside the structure. We can see our brigade over to our left. They're getting ready to form square. They're aware of cavalry in the vicinity. That they formed the square. And now you see them front rank kneeling with the muskets propped up, bayonets up as the cavalry sweeps around them. And then here we are from inside our position. The battle is starting to move away from the Hougoumont structure. These buildings got battered. The French did everything they could trying to get inside, including breaking through the plywood walls. I'm looking out over the battlefield as the action moves away. You can see the state of the defenses, and some of the battle continues. And then there's what's left of the Hougoumont defenses. It really got absolutely battered that night during a lot of intense action. And there, the final charge of the Imperial Guard. And the battle is starting to wind down. There's your defenders of Hougoumont as it gets dark, and you can see the gunpowder residue on their hands. Some of my guys had fired over 100 rounds while they're inside defending this Hougoumont structure. And, as we wrap up our visit with Waterloo 200, it was just so amazing to be part of a global event. There was literally people from every part of the world that come and took part in this venture, and it was absolutely an amazing experience and something that I'll continue to reflect back upon with amazement and a lot of pride, for being part of the organizing committee that managed to bring 160 Canadians, 120 of which were in uniform on the field and able to participate in this grand venture.